Hey, greetings, Synapse CI/CD fans. Welcome to this new episode on my Synapse CI/CD's video series. My name is Rui Cunha, and I'm a support escalation engineer on the Azure Synapse Analytics team. Today's video will be focused in the Synapse Workspace artifacts deployment task using Azure DevOps. I'll be showcasing some typical scenarios where your deployment will break and how you can easily investigate these issues further and mitigate. So let's watch this video and see this troubleshooting in action. When you want to deploy your Synapse Workspace artifacts to a target environment, we strongly recommend using the Synapse Workspace deployment extension. This is the easiest way to implement your CI/CD workflow for your Synapse artifacts in Azure DevOps or GitHub. In this video, I'm going to reproduce some scenarios where the deployment can fail and show you how you can investigate further and mitigate these failures. So let's start by creating this release. I'll hit the create button and now I will check the release progress from here. Checking the logs, and it is failing to fetch this information. We have a 403 with the status message forbidden. Now we need to investigate why the deployment task is failing with this error message. Now this release pipeline, if we headed this pipeline, this release is running with this service principal here, the service principal for the DevOps connection, and how we can check this service principal. If we go here to the manage service principal, okay, so here's let's copy the managed application name from here. Let's go to the target workspace, access control, and since this was a 403 error message, this is suggesting me some issues with the Azure RBAC. Let's check the access for this service principal here. So there is no role assignment, so we need to grant access to this service principal. I need to grant the contributor role. I will select this service principal. I want to go back to the deployment task, to the release, and create a new release. Let's see now. Okay, let me see if it is the same error. No, it is not. So it did not fail fetching the workspace information. It is now failing with a different error. It is now deploying the artifacts, and there is an error message here with the 403. This is suggesting RBAC related permissions. More details about this failure. Principal does not have the right permission on the workspace here for the pipeline artifact. It's Synapse RBAC related, so we should go here to our workspace, check under security access control. We don't have any permissions granted, any roles granted to this service principal. So what we need to do now, and in terms of permissions, we would require the Synapse artifact publisher role, and we will grant this to this service principal. So this is Synapse RBAC, data plane related permissions, and this is Azure RBAC, the control plane related permissions. Now back to our deployment. Create now the release, now that the Synapse RBAC was granted. Okay, now you see the deployment is going through. Okay, it completed deploying the artifacts from template, so everything is now published. Let's see another scenario. Now in my target environment, I have my IP whitelisted here, and I don't have this option here, allow Azure services to access this workspace. So this is a shared VNet workspace. I'm going to create here a new release. So here's the error message that we're getting. See? So this is not a 403 hardback related permission error. This is related to the client IP address. So in this scenario, something that you should do is to allow Azure DevOps to access your workspace. Once the firewall rules are updated, let me go here and create a separate release. And now the deployment tasks succeed. Here's another scenario where you are using the deployment task to deploy your artifacts to a target environment, and you want to deploy the managed private endpoints that exist in your template. So in this case, I have a managed VNet workspace. I have a couple of managed private endpoints here, and I want these managed private endpoints to be deployed to my UAT workspace. So I'm going now to create this new release and deploy the artifacts and the managed private endpoints. And now the release is failing with this error message when deploying the managed private endpoint. You see this unauthorized error message for this managed private endpoint, and it is telling me that this service principal does not have the required Synapse RBAC permission to perform this action, the right action on the managed private endpoint. Okay, so this is my workspace, mvnet Synapse UAT. So let's check the Synapse RBAC for this service principal, the DevOps connection service principal. And checking the access control, I see that this service principal is granted the artifact publisher. Let's check the Microsoft public documentation for the Synapse RBAC for the artifact publisher and see what kind of actions are allowed for this role here. Synapse artifact publisher, we don't see any action related to the managed private endpoints. Here in the deployment task, we need this action right on the managed private endpoints. Let's take a look at the documentation and see the right. It's Synapse Administrator, okay, and Synapse Link Data Manager. So we need to grant one of these roles to our service principal. So let's go here, and I'm going to add the Link Data Manage list privilege again. Okay, and redeploy now the artifacts. So here's the deployment task running, and we can see now that everything is working fine. So the managed private endpoint deployment was successful, and now we can go to our Synapse Workspace, manage private endpoints, and here they are. So remember that Synapse Artifact Publisher is not sufficient when you want to deploy the managed private endpoints. You need to grant this additional RBAC, the Synapse Link Data Manager, to your DevOps service principal. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, as we'll be releasing more Synapse CI/CD videos soon. As we would love to hear from you, don't forget to share your ideas and thoughts in the comments section below. So stay tuned, and I will catch you on the next one.